Feel free, break it open, enjoy.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And drinks are on that side.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, we got these things locked over here.
You can't get into it. The native sneak.
Oh, we have some expertise in this area.
Good. Come to. Right. Nice to meet you. Come to. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. Pleasure. Come to. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. I was. I drove over now. Just sprinkle a bunch of it. Up to date weather for middle of December. Yeah, a couple inches over the weekend. But it's on, yeah. Works. Homemade ham salad.
I should have said that. Hi, Nick. Ron, are you in the logging into the meeting? You don't need to.
That's a level. That's level of participation above and beyond.
He did pull our accounts for you.
Right.
You know what's funny is he saw the guys on the street, so they always stop to talk to them, tell them how things are going. Where are you?
Don't worry, I had to go. Yeah, of course. I'm fun, man. I don't know about that.
Oh, you got it?
She's here. See that time? Because he said, you and Peter, because you might want something.
Been around, been around.
He knows well enough, right?
There's some food over there, Jesse, man.
Let me look at Okay. Hi. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Oh, perfect. Right, yeah. Take it back. Yeah. A couple weeks now, so one day at a time. Yeah. Some food is good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, folks, and see your network.
All here, we get assembled. There's some food over there. You know, Jacob told me it's not quite as good as the school lunch, but you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Assembled here. So, call the meeting to order and start. First item of business are the minutes of the previous meeting of November 12th. They were circulated in the packet. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve them. Moved. Second. Again, any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're passed. Okay, pay requisition for the previous month. Kim, Joan.
Okay, payment to Hanson, $3,491.50. Payment to Bond Phone for $8,152.50. Payment to Savage Engineers for $332,434.23. Last for the payment to Watt for $15,500. Total payment $370,570.
Questions or comments for the report? Okay, you're hearing none, then we'll entertain a motion to approve it. Motion to approve it. Need a second? Second. Any further questions or comments? Okay, you're hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. I'm pleased to see that we've got 3 or 4 items on here, and we take, we're making forward progress here. That we're retaining some of the expertise that's necessary to get this project into the ground and underway. The first of those items is for construction management services for school mine and Wilson. Same contracting firm is hired for both. Stefan, you want to say a few words about this and point to your letter that authorizes it or that supports it?
Sure, thank you, sir. We discussed with the board last month the RFPs that were issued and proposals were received for CM services at MLK Junior number 9 and Wilson Commencement. As a reminder, 4 firms responded to those solicitations. 3 were shortlisted by the interview committee, which decided that the Chase Construction provided the best value in terms of price and approach for the services. So we are asking the board to consider the interview committee's recommendation to award a contract for these services to the Chase for Martin Luther King School number 9 and Wilson. I sent a letter to the chairman and copied the rest of the board, which is displayed on the screen. If the board has any questions on this one, answer.
Remember that one of the things we talked about at last month's meeting was that we were trying to make sure that the expertise that was available to us, construction management, got in places where we felt we needed it most. And so, the fact that we have 2 schools being done by this particular contract, we think well within the capacity to do it. But more importantly, that someone else who was really capable is also capable had to be available to find, which is our biggest project. So we didn't want to use up all our expertise here in the first school and then find ourselves really lacking, or particularly since Franklin is such a large project for us. So that's how it's worked out. We were able to negotiate that. That's really with the people that you're hearing or being proposed tonight. So that's item number 3. Any questions or comments about that? So you're hearing none. We'll entertain a motion to approve the award.
So
Moved. And second. Further comments or questions? Here you're seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. And now, the second part of that story, right?
Sure. So similarly, we received 3 proposals from the same firms that were shortlisted for the earlier projects. We reviewed those proposals with the board members that were present, the school districts, citizens department. And as the chairman mentioned, all 3 firms have the bandwidth, experience, and competence to deliver services. But the decision was made to award Franklin to Pike Construction Services, since their proposals have the best approach and also for the reasons stated earlier by the chairman. Therefore, we asked him the board to consider the recommendation to award a contract for CM services Pike Construction for IDS School at Franklin.
The other reason that this is important now at this point in time is one of the principal responsibilities of construction managers now in these projects is the budget and the estimating of the cost. And we're at a stage in these projects where we get serious about that. So that we've got something to really do. And that's the expertise we're trying to get here. And now's the time to get it before we get farther down the road. Okay, questions or comments? Yeah,
There was just one point, so, really a successful company between 44% compliance. Really exceeded, the goals.
But I should have called it
Yep.
before. Thank you.
But yeah, so we've got 44 for the bike on one, 42 on the other, and it's guy at 39.
Okay, other questions or comments? Yes.
Just for level setting purposes, can you just explain what having the bandwidth actually means to letting people like me up?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. Here's what it means to me. One of the principal, important, elements of expertise that they bring is the experience with the local construction market. These are people who are very active in the local construction all over the place. They will have access to the latest and best cost estimates because they're buying, construction services and managing their costs. So that's one area where we have. And that takes somebody who's active, and participating in the market. The second is the capacity to do the work for schools. I'm not telling you something new. Working in school construction things in New York, and you need to have expertise that allows us to take these projects in a way that get approved and maintain limits with respect to reimbursement. That's so important. And then the third area that's important is they're responsible for managing the contractors and the other people that actually do it. So they have to have sufficient staff available to provide that kind of expertise on site all the time. And that's a skill, and it's a different skill than being a general contractor. You want some did something, not that is important, but it's a different kind of management function than there might be expected right away. What else you got, Kevin?
Oh, you covered it all. And I see you already mentioned the video participation. So you ready to go on that?
Is that good enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hearing enough, you see anything else? I'll entertain a motion to approve it. Move, seconded. Any further comments or questions? Not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Good. Hands approved. Okay, now we get into a couple of items where we're gonna go out and get some bids on something. The first of these, number 5, has to do with commissioning services. And I asked Pepin to give you a little briefing of what we mean by commissioning services and why it's necessary.
Yes, thank you. We are then asking the board for authorization to release an RFP for commissioning services for the 3 projects that are in design. Similar to prior phases of the program, the size and complexity of these projects require, of course, the process that ensures the building special MEP systems are designed properly, planned properly, installed, tested, and performed interactively in accordance with the design intent. The services also ensure that the systems are efficient and cost effective in meeting the operational needs of the school district. The installation can be properly documented, and the operators and end users of the systems are properly trained. And we do those actions with assistance of the CM, the architect, program manager, but the commissioning agency, the commissioning authority services is a tool to minimize post-occupancy operational problems. It also establishes testing and communication protocols for the building systems to make sure the operation is optimized. So hopefully that explains the necessity and importance of those services. What we'd like to do those doing the schematic design throughout the design development services. I think Lori was waiting for me to say that. So we are selecting systems and components for it. You have anything to add?
No, you can talk it.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, this is a big component of making sure we're gonna get here what we're paying. And that the district, in fact, is able to use it in a way that makes sense and meets the needs. That does what we intended it to do.
And the schedule is on the screen. Yeah. We should make them put in the schedule.
Question, we're talking about like knowledge.
Yes, sir. The HVAC system, electrical, coordination studies, panels, testing and balancing.
One of the things that happens is, we talk about it, we're talking about schools that, some of them are 100 years old. Now, the HVAC systems are not usually 100 years old. But in almost all cases, they reach the natural end of their useful life. And when we replace them, it's not just replacing them, we're not replacing them with the same thing, we're replacing with 2 or 3 generations of, solid state controls, remote controls, all kinds of things that were not even in existence at the time the original stuff was generated. So somebody has to make sure all it's working, and if this one is turned over to the district, they know how to operate it and know how to take advantage of all. But it's a real significant change in the kind of equipment people have. Okay, other questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the RFP for commissioning service. Take the motion, and moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. And now for architectural services for Edison number 6. Okay.
Well, similar to what we've done for the first 3 projects. We bore you through that, the explanation. So we'd like the board to authorize us to release the RFP for design services like Edison Tech. This will follow the same procurement process that was done for the first 3 projects. Number 9, Wilson and Idea Franklin. We will be working with the ICO, the school districts, and board members as part of the interview committee to analyze those proposals when we receive them. So, but for now, we'd like the authorization to release that RFP. And part of it also is to, the reason we're accelerating this procurement is to make sure the architect of record works with the structural engineer that we pick for Edison. So we're not undoing work that the structural engineer will be doing for the waffle class system.
Yeah, so we talked about this before. Edison has a unique problem with respect to the way it was constructed. It has, this reinforced rebar situation, and some of it has become non-functional. So we had to hire, and you approved earlier, structural engineer with their expertise in that problem. They've been hired and are ready to go. So that we don't duplicate what they did. The idea is to get this architect in place and work along with them, otherwise it's twice. But Edison does have a unique situation with respect to that. But it has to be solved as part of this solution. But this timing issue is to try to make this thing as efficient as possible, given the magnitude of the problem. Okay, questions or comments? If you're seeing none, then we'll entertain a motion to approve it. Second? For a second? Any further comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. And lastly, number 7, the architect or the CM services, Brad.
Yes, we're also asking the board to authorize the release of the RFP for CM services for Edison Tech.
Questions or comments on that? You're seeing that now, we'll entertain a motion to approve it. Second, moved and seconded. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That concludes the items that are board action, but we do have a couple of items that we will spend a little time reporting here. With the construction unit report. The project management. So Pepin, why don't you start us off?
Sure. As far as our report, if you could bring up the budget. Start with that. There are no hard costs expended to date, then this will happen the very end of 2025 after the board awards construction contracts. The incidental expenses to date are 4.77% of the total incidental budget. $5,339,042 are paid. Have been paid to date against the statutory borrowing authorization, which translates into 1.12% expended with 98.88% remaining. So that's where we are with the budget. As far as the details of those cost categories, they are being tracked in the project site. I'm sure Bonnie's working on this to have a detailed report to be shared with the finance director. As far as the financial plan, if questions on or someone?
The one thing we said, this is maybe a good place to put it back in. Kim, I missed you. Kim, our Kim, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Those relate to the months. Right. So maybe this is a good place to put that back in. It's not you're not required to take any action in respect to it, but this is a fund balance report for the active expenditure.
Thank you, Chairman Richards. Excuse me. I'd like to start at the top to show that we did receive a disbursement to the account of $1.2 million on June 6th. That takes us very close to the previously approved limit. I am waiting for the district for confirmation from the district that the funding request through June 2025 was in fact approved by the Board of Ed. So once I have that information, I will update the board with the expenditures from this month of $372,578.23. That leaves an account balance of $99,918.73, with a total amount expended to date of $5,339,042. The budget shows a deficit of $976,867, which again is just until the budget has been revised, and that will happen probably in the February meeting, which will capture the recent approvals of the large contractors, so that all of that can be included in the updated budget.
Yeah. Back on.
Thank you. David, could pull up that flow chart. Okay, thank you. If you remember, last month and a month prior, the board chairman asked us to put a process chart together towards resubmission of the financial plan to the state controller, after SCD had asked us to redo our strategic plan to account for school number 9 as a non-gut rehab project. So we did that. And Franklin as well is a non-gut rehab project. So we focused on school number 9 and we prepared new calculations with the financial advisors and the bond underwriter. Worked new tables. We had some dates target for this assignment. We've, pretty much hit all those dates. And happy to report that we had submitted the revised financial plan and the program verification report for school number 9 to SED and the Office of the State Controller. Those receipts have been acknowledged, I believe, Tim, to you from the State Controller. They are in the process of reviewing the financial plan as updated. However, they won't be able to take any action or provide approvals until SCD has had a chance to review it with them and provide their own feedback. And since then, I've emailed on behalf of the Vice Chair, Mr. Scott, I've emailed those reports to the state, acknowledged receipts, and have some questions which we'd like to discuss with them in person if possible, of their teams. I also emailed the SE project manager, Mr. Kosar, requesting a meeting so we can review the expectations and see how we can move forward. That's pretty much where we are with the resubmission of the financial plan for phase 3.
And even told.
As far as the total,
How much of a reduction?
Yeah.
What are some examples of the reduction?
okay,
That put things back in line.
so we're gonna have Roy take that since it's closer to it.
We focused upon MLK Junior School 9 because the impacts were the greatest on that particular school, it being the only elementary school in phase 3. On the initial blush, that cost impact was approximately $6.7 million. Got reconciled to replanning, redesign of the facility to generate more aid, to about $2 million deficit, which working with Chief Operating Officer and Board Vice President Jacob Scott, along with the facilities group, we were able to prioritize and address scope in those regards to get it basically to about $1.4 million, which is very manageable on a $35 million project, considering we haven't gone into schematic design. The kinds of things that really came out of the project was a lot of the work that was desirable by the district and the city and the Jackson Recreational Center. That work was the lion's share, air conditioning, gym, that sort of stuff. And it's just not affordable. Other than that, there are some haircuts that we think are still manageable, but those are the big ticket items.
Okay, thank you, Wally. The scope issues at school number 9, as Wally mentioned, got resolved, and hopefully that answered the questions. So we are technically flirting with schematic design right now, but we won't be able to do a deep dive until we get feedback from SCD that the program verification report is acceptable. We just don't want to redo work, so we wait for to hear back in the comments. But we've had several sessions with the facilities department, with Mr. Scott participating in those discussions, where the facilities folks were in agreement with what we've done. We are not in a position to submit the schematic design to FCD yet, or the RJSCB for school 9 until the purchase submission of that report is in place. So the other thing the chairman wanted me to do is to talk about our schedule itself. There were a couple of documents I'd like to review with the board, if that's okay. One of them is the Gantt chart that we are using technically as our guide to manage the project. The other one is an exercise that Terry O'Connor made to show where we kind of slipped on the schedule for the first two projects and where the recovery is happening and where we will negotiate some time savings with the designer. So this is the document you are familiar with. The plan initially was to provide a schematic design of first submission and the 25% submission for the state by the day after Christmas or during Christmas time. This is not going to happen because, again, for the reasons both the chairman, William, and myself mentioned earlier, we have to do some major cost adjustments and scope adjustments to be where we need to be, since the 475 is static, that's not going to move. So you can see where on those, for example, Wilson, the design supposed to be completed by at least the 25% is supposed to be submitted January 20th, 2025, but that will slip. I'm gonna have Terry go through the analysis that we went through the past few days, through the weekend until Saturday. So there's another file that I sent to you, Terry, if you can pull that up. I'd like Terry to stick with it, and Terry can start by talking about where we hit up time and where we supposed to. Terry?
Wait for it to come up. So all we did here was highlight the dates in blue, and I know they're hard to read. Can we blow that up anymore? Is dates that I pulled out of that Gantt chart that you guys have seen previously, the last Gantt chart. I've been talked about the time that had to be spent reducing costs, collecting information to design and so forth, which put us behind what that Gantt chart was. Actually more than what we're showing here. So what we've been able to do is confirm. One of the things is originally we had scheduled coming to the board for an update before we're submitting to SCB. What that was one of the major changes that was made was that resolution is not needed. We confirm that with BSCK, so that as soon as the report at each phase is ready, we'll submit to SCB and then give the board an update at the very next meeting, so that the process can run simultaneously instead of end to end. And when you have so many different submissions to SCB that's required by the legislation, that helps shrink that time period down in order to get that final submission to SCD quicker. It allows us to go to bid and start construction soon.
Terry, if you will, I think it's important for the board to appreciate that even in the contract and the CM, the architect and the CM's contracts, the submission dates are mandatory. Bring the resources necessary to achieve the submission dates are mandatory. No submission will occur to SED that, in our collective opinion, primarily the program managers, that submission doesn't comply with the enabling legislation's requirement for to comply with the 95% MCA cap. So we will not be submitting anything to SED that we don't fully believe complies. And what Terry is bringing to bear is, as tight as our schedules are, that doesn't always align with the monthly board schedule. But we will not submit if it doesn't comply.
Yeah, which is just, functionally, we really can't submit. If it doesn't comply, SED can take it back to us anyways. So we need to make sure that all of the work, the designs and the estimates meet that requirement so that we can continue on the project. So what we've gotten is that the schedule for Wilson, has always been the most critical because of the shared swing space with Douglas being the last project within the building. So, we needed to make sure we finish Wilson on time, vacate the swing space to allow Douglas and students to move into that swing space over summertime. Now, this gets us back to finishing Wilson in the middle of the summer of at least 28, remember correctly. And, but it's a little tight. We'd like to see it finishing closer to the beginning of the summer than the end of the summer, just to give us a little more cushion. So we are still going to be doing some work with the architect if we can gain another month. But right now, we are finishing in the middle of the summer. So it does work. Just got to sweat it out a little bit and make sure there's no hiccups to hit that. We're going to work on trying to give ourselves a cushion as we continue design. I don't know what else there really is to,
I think that's fine.
cover here.
So the reason I asked them to share this with you is that not that the board, particularly the reason that they've been buzzing about the numbers here, but that we are working on this continuum. In other words, we're not going to wait until the end of the project here and see what gives it going. So every month we'll make adjustments in the schedule and trying to figure out what impact that has on the project itself. And this is going to go on the whole time, particularly when a lot of these additions that are being discussed here. We only control half, we control a part of the submission. But the review and approval process, control of SED, he doesn't have the same kind of mandates that we have here. So that will have an impact on them. I don't want to prejudge that. I mean, they'll understand that. They know what we're working against their cooperation, but we need it. And we need to show the impact of all these changes every time. So we're aware of where we are, what we're scheduled. Okay.
Sure. Lastly, if ready to move on, we would like to present the results of the program verification work that was done by the team and SWDR as the architect of record for Wilson. Rick, you want to introduce Alison and Rob?
Thanks, Putnam.
That means the microphone.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So we'll begin by thanking the board and Chairman Richards for taking the time. Motion, you done, Rob? That's been question. 3 months on.
Grab this one.
Lights on, nobody's home. For the interest of the board's time, we were prepared, SWPR was prepared. An abbreviated version of the full length report, which is I think about 100 pages long. Wilson, with SWPR, and about 2 decades of experience, architecture, and history. The full-length version of this report will be made available for their review. Without further ado,
Let me say, the reason I asked them to do this is that I think the board needs to understand what we're talking about when we start complaining about the program verification. And how much work has to go into it and what that means. So again, this is not so that necessarily a technical judgment on it, but it is important that you understand what it is that we're required to do here. What we're doing in order to get that, meet that requirement. That's going to rip us through this entire project. For an example of it. So, Allison, with your decades of experience, go ahead.
It makes me feel very, very old when you put it that way.
Sorry about that.
So, yeah, SWBR has been part of the strategic planning for Rochester City School District since 2005. So we are very familiar with all the buildings in the district and here to talk about Wilson Magnet High School. As Chairman Richard said, this was a very long report. We can go to the next slide, sorry.
I'm not impressed.
Advancing. There we go. Thanks, Kim. So Wilson Magnet has a very compact site, very landlocked site, surrounded on all sides by streets. Parking has been satisfactory for the district, but we're looking to research lots of existing parking lots in this project. The main bus loop along Genesee Street has been working well for both visitor parking, staff parking, and city bus drop-off. That's working well. There does lack, as it is completely surrounded by streets, a playfield area adjacent to the gymnasium. So that was a request as moving forward into this project, that we perhaps get some outdoor play field area or outdoor seating for cafeteria in the scope of work. So we're examining that portion. But this school is beautiful. It's a 1904 building that's back from the road with some mature landscape. That is part of the collegiate seal that this site has that we'd really like to maintain. So Wilson, as you know, is one of those projects certified from SED as a gut rehab project. This allows the maximum cost allowance to increase. This is one of the larger buildings for RJSCB. So increasing that maximum cost allowance allows us to get all this work done in one phase. So spreading it out amongst different phases. So doubles the MCA for us, which is under the budget, or I'm sorry, over the budget. So our budget is 88 million for me. And during the program verification estimate phase, we came up with a budget, including the scope requested, of about 89.7 million. So this is 1.4 million over budget, but we're comfortable that that amount can be resolved as we move into schematic design. So what did the program verification phase?
So as an example of what I'm trying to say here, if that last sentence wasn't correct, in other words, if they weren't confident that they could manage this difference, we stop and we go back and figure out what we have to do to make sure we are confident that we can make this difference. And we do it now before we go all the way halfway through the thing and realize that we're in trouble.
And kind of the one difference between the program verification stage and each of those other legislative required submissions is this gets us into schematic where we really get into design versus really just determining scope and general and concept stage. So at this stage, it's okay to be 1.4 over because we're still just, getting into the details of the design. The submission that goes to SED, we will make sure we are at the budget so that we are proving out that the budget and proving out the 95% ability in that package that goes to SED at every one of those steps.
Yeah, and to your point, we did stop. We were 10 million. So this is a result of several meetings, several workshops. We have a down to 10 million.
But
Keep going else before they change their number.
Right. Appreciate that. So we go to the next slide. The program verification phase involved a charrette that we met with Stakeholders from the facilities, the school, the surrounding communities came out and discussed different scope items. And as we were doing that, throwing out ideas, the scope increased up and up and up and up and up, and that got us to the 10 or $12 million over budget that we ended up. So that involves sitting down with groups, the facilities group and RSMP, and really trying to dig through what are these scope reductions that can be made, the things that weren't accounted for in the strategic plan. Maybe those get tabled as a bid alternate or completely get removed from the table. So we're able to reach that $88 million threshold. So we, as Kevin said, we went through a reconciliation process, meeting with stakeholders, coming up with scope reduction ideas, and wish list items had to be removed or put on the back burner in order to realign the budget. So the school has programs in the strategic plan. The 880 students, 80 students will be self-contained special ed students. Throughout the program patient phase, we did a test fit that took undersized classrooms and increased the size. Anything under 770, there was some classrooms that were 685, 650. Those do not meet the SED standard of 770. So we enlarged those classrooms, ultimately reducing the quantity of classrooms in the building, but making sure they're all at the standard square footage. We also added, which is included in the strategic plan, a main entrance, secure vestibule that will act as an accessible and main entrance. So all students coming to the building will come to one main accessible entrance. It'll have security for metal detection and bag checks and cell phone collection. So having a space that's large enough to do that, you call this right now has 2 entrances that as soon as you enter this building, you have to go upstairs. Very tight entrances. So this will enlarge that main office, main entrance, and everyone will know approaching the site which door to go. During the charrette and program verification phase, there was a need established on facilities to add a freight elevator to the building. There is no elevator of substantial size to get deliveries up and down, PT classrooms, materials, or food service to the basement, which is the food service for the kitchen, which is located on the lower level. So in order to do that, we said, okay, what would it take to get a freight elevator addition in here? That was included in the project as something that was of high priority to the district. And then also something major that was included in the strategic plan was getting rid of the wood structure in the attic, so replacing that with steel. So the building is able to last another 120 years.
Allison, you might add that wood construction, this was called a non-compliant condition, but it does not comply with codes. It's a source of fire, whereas steel and non-combustible is what schools are supposed to be.
And it's been a maintenance issue for the district. Getting rid of that will help it last another 100 years. Some other scope reduction items would be replacing the air handling units and sprinkler work that's included in the scope. So really, when we move into schematic design, figuring out what the extent of those systems would be. Can we reuse some of the air handling units selectively, not all of them? And what extent needs to be sprinklered if we're taking the wood out of the building? So this is just an image here of what was in the strategic plan for renovation. So light renovation, moderate, heavy, structural, and the purple is efficient. And the diagonal is cutting and patching. So existing, you can see we did have cutting and patching included in. We just want to be very conservative about the budget. Make sure that that square footage is accounted for as we're replacing really all of the infrastructure in the building. We HVAC systems, plumbing systems, electrical systems, air conditioning in the building. All of those spaces need to be touched in one way or another. This is just a diagram between how the budget changed from the plan, now really diving in program certification. This is the third floor, and then the dark orange is the structural rehabilitation. That is the replacement of the attic structure. That involves replacing all the framing, sheathing, and the roof entirely. That's at a higher cost level than the other one. So, as we move into schematic design, we're gonna refine what our light, moderate, and heavy focus. So right now there's square footage numbers, but we're gonna, actually put in the nuts and bolts pieces of the design, so we're able to get better cost estimating on those. So as you can see from the chart here, half of this is general construction and the other half is MEP, including fire protection. So we're really focusing on the infrastructure for this project as well as the aesthetics and getting this building to function as the school needs it to. So half and half there. So we still have on our list add alternates. So there'll still be alternates that we may have to pick and choose from as we move into schematic design to make sure we're meeting the budget. And yeah, that just shows that we're about half and half. So this is the schedule. As Terry said, there was a little bit of shifting here and there, but we do plan to go to SCD for the schematic design submission in March of next year. So we're fully into schematic design after today, submitting to our estimator to review, and I think the DM will also be estimating it. And then we'll have to come back again and reconcile if there's anything that we need to pull out as a bid alternate. So, and make sure we, coordinate that with facilities and the building staff. That's all I have today. Thank you. Any questions?
It was very informative.
Now you know how we managed to spend all that money. Some of this, not being a little sarcastic, some of this is necessary to do this kind of project. It's more intensely bureaucratic and more detailed than our case because of all the approval and then the ordinary. But the principle that they kind of do here is to say that here's the educational plan, and we put it in the building at work, and do it for the ones that we have. You don't want to find out that you have a bunch of money to do the job and you have three classes. Something like that. And it's never ending. But there's a lot of expertise.
Does SCD ever ask to look at the program verification?
Yeah.
We submitted the first one, to them. Waiting for feedback.
And it's actually in our interest to do it, but we're way off from place here. But we're doing something good and we're not gonna buy into it. But as soon as we know that it's better and work it out. Painful as it looks. There are some of the reasons to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This concludes our report. As far as the refunding opportunity, I believe Mr. Blair and Scott Halpay will get a response. He's having internal meetings with your finance department. Develop the proposed bill that was related to the delegation. Do that. So I'm sure. Okay, great.
Now, somebody forgot here, I forgot to introduce conversation. Start. We made him vote. I wanted to see how he was gonna vote.
I'm sorry.
Just to get him introduced, but, I would say replaces Rich Karen, who, you know, is up the city, but other things. And, glad to have him, he was his deputy and he is not the acting director. He also worked in finance before. So. Him can be-
Budget.
Budget.
Budget. I tried to steal it, but I couldn't.
So he's got a lot of experience. How long have you been at this?
Not to your fault.
Dr. Baloo,
Yeah.
Anyway, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I didn't. Anything else? Anything else to come before our group? Seeing or hearing none, please take some food with you or have some here. Plenty there. Thank you, folks. We'll stand adjourned.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to everyone. And thank you for the food, Sharon.
Anthony. Yeah.